to kick off the webinar, I'm going to introduce environmental services, and then I'm going to ask a couple of my coworkers to introduce the other two groups that are with us this afternoon. And those other two groups are TC WMODAG and CAMP. And I'm going to let Jen and Brian introduce those two groups to you. But from Metropolitan Council Environmental Services, we are the organization that operates all of the wastewater treatment plants in the Twin Cities. So because of that, we have a pretty large water monitoring, data assessment, and policy planning, water policy planning component. So I'm part of that group. Also here today are folks from our laboratory services group operating a large chemistry lab. We have engineers and scientists from our research and development groups and our process engineering groups, and several other functions, including probably our industrial waste group, which deals with industries that discharge to our wastewater treatment plants. So that's our group today. And now, Jen, I'll let you introduce TC WMODAG.
Hello, my name is Jen Kostrowski, and I'm a co-facilitator of TC WMODAG. That stands for the Twin Cities Water Monitoring and Data and Assessment Group. We're a group of public sector water professionals that work for federal, tribal, state, regional, county, watershed organizations, and cities and townships. We also have some members from NGOs as well. And even though we say we're the Twin Cities, we do have members from outside of the Twin Cities. We are a pretty inclusive group. No matter where we work, our unifying goal is to work with each other to provide data and assessments to help protect and restore the waters within the Twin Cities metropolitan area and beyond. So that's who our group are, and we are very much so looking forward to hear this presentation.
Thanks. And then Brian, do you want to introduce CAMP?
Hi, yeah. I'm Brian Johnson, and I'm the coordinator for the Citizens Assisted Monitoring Program, which we call CAMP for short. I'm also the coordinator for the Lake Monitoring Program as a whole at Metropolitan Council Environmental Services. So glad to see you all here. The CAMP is a organization that consists of about 120 volunteers or so, and local units of government that we call sponsors, and we got about 25 of them, such as cities, counties, watershed districts, watershed management organizations, and conservation districts. And with the sponsors and our volunteers, we get up monitoring about 180 or so lake sites every year, and they do. The volunteers do a great job in collecting some valuable data from April through October, which tracks water quality in the Twin Cities metropolitan area. That's pretty valuable for tracking the status of our lakes for a given year and over the long term. Program's been around since 1993, so they do a real good job of giving us good view on the status and trends of water quality. Thank you.
Great, thanks. So those are the groups represented at this webinar today, kind of all brought together by a combination of common interest and the magic of virtual meetings, which has some obvious disadvantages, but today we're taking advantage of the real big advantages. So I appreciate that you all joined us today. Please keep your mic and camera muted all the time unless you're speaking at later in the webinar. It'll be open for Q&A, so please turn on your mic to ask questions, turn on your video if it doesn't bog down your internet too bad. We like seeing other faces, but while the speakers are speaking and the videos or music is running, please keep your camera and your microphone muted. I just want to also let you know that this meeting is being recorded. Chris, Alex, and Beth, I realized I didn't ask permission ahead of time, so let us know if you don't want to be recorded. We can certainly stop it. It's only the introduction so far. But we'd like to make our meetings available for people who aren't able to join us live. So that's all the housekeeping notes I have, except that just, I know people have different speeds of internet. So if you are having trouble at any point during the meeting, before you give up entirely, I would suggest leaving the meeting and rejoining, just as sort of a last ditch troubleshooting effort. So with that, if you have questions, please pop them in the chat until the time when it's open for Q&A, and I will turn it over to our guest speakers. Thanks so much for joining us.
All right, greetings everyone, and thank you for being here today. As we get started, let's just take a moment to acknowledge that we are on Indigenous land. We're grateful to our Indigenous relatives who have stewarded the land and water through times past and now today. I'm Chris Meyer, Program Coordinator at Freshwater.
And I'm Alex Van Loo, Program Coordinator at Freshwater as well. And I want to make sure that you can hear me. Chris, yes?
Yes,
okay.
You're good.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. So just to give you a little bit of background information on our organization, Freshwater is a statewide nonprofit organization that focuses on both groundwater sustainability and non-point source pollution. We work with policy initiatives, coordinate research efforts, and design and deliver engagement programs and events. The Minnesota Water Steward Program is one of our key community engagement programs. And actually, I am going to share my screen. Okay. So the Minnesota Water Steward Program trains and certifies volunteer leaders to take action for water in their communities. Stewards go through an online course that covers basic water science, water policy, efficiency, community engagement, and landscaping for water quality. Stewards are then certified upon completion of a capstone project that both educates community members and improves water health. All right. So Art for Water is today's focus, and it's a program that brings local artists through the science-based Minnesota Water Stewards curriculum, and then empowers them to create public art that educates and motivates people to take action for water. Art has the power to inform and inspire people in ways that facts and figures just can't. Through images, sounds, and feelings, art can connect people with different perspectives and crack open the door to new insights and teachable moments. Now, before we go any further, let's have a little chance to get creative. Chris, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, and why don't you stop sharing for just a second here, and I will, there we go. I think, am I showing up on the screen now as the speaker?
Yes.
Okay, I hope all of you had a chance to pull out some paper, crayons, markers, whatever you could find beforehand. I have my paper right here, and I have my markers. I'm speaking slowly, so you can grab something. If you don't have anything else, just grab a piece of notebook paper, whatever, note paper and a pen, that will work too. What we're going to do is we're going to relax and indulge our creativity. Okay, Alex, you can share again. Alex, there we go. Thank you. This activity was inspired by the doodles of Mo Willems. He's an author and illustrator of several series of children's books. Those of you who have children might have run into the Pigeon series or the Elephant and Piggy series, other things. He's won awards for these. So anyway, we're going to start with everybody draw a water drop on your paper. It can be anywhere, any size, any way that you envision a water drop. Now we are going to play some music, and we'd like you to listen to the music and relax and let yourself doodle. Anything goes. You'll have around 3 minutes to do this. So go ahead and enjoy.
Baba yetu yetu liye mbinguni yetu yetu amina. Baba yetu yetu liye jina lako litukuzwe. Baba yetu yetu liye mbinguni yetu yetu amina. Baba yetu yetu chakula chetu, tunatohitaji utusamehe makosa yetu, kama wasi tunavyowasamehe waliotukosea, usitutie katika majaribu, lakini utuokoe na yule mwovu wa milele. Utupeleo chakula chetu, tunatohitaji utusamehe makosa yetu, kama wasi tunavyowasamehe waliotukosea, usitutie katika majaribu, lakini utuokoe na yule mwovu wa milele.
All right, make your last few strokes. Hold your creation out and let yourself enjoy what you've just created. I'll show you mine here if you can see it. I was inspired by the season and decorated a water drop tree out in a snowy landscape with a water drop snowman. So I hope that you enjoyed just relaxing, listening to the music, and creating some art.
I love it, Chris. So festive.
Right.
I mean, I just think that's so fun. We each started with a drop, and then I'm sure the creativity just rippled out with each of us creating something unique. I mean, that's the magic of art, right? So now that we are all channeling our inner artist, we're excited to tell you a little bit more about the Art for Water program. Throughout the last year, we have been working with Hennepin County and Rice Creek Watershed District to pilot this program. Our goal was to empower local artists with a strong foundation of water science and social science, and then support them as they create public art to educate and motivate people to take action for water. We had 12 artists participate this year, and though the pandemic started right in the middle of our training, we had one in-person session and then the rest all went virtual. The artists managed to get creative, which makes sense, and still managed to pull off some really cool projects. So we've actually put together a little video to give a better introduction to the program, partners, and the artists. Then afterwards, we'll have a chance to hear more from one of the people you'll meet in the video. And with that, I think, Jen, if you want to take over and play the video.
Freshwater. Our mission is in our name. And when you live in the land of more than 10,000 lakes, you're surrounded by fresh water. In our lakes and rivers, flowing from our taps, and in the groundwater we all rely on. But the downside of being awash in fresh water, it's easy to take it for granted. We just assume it'll always be here, to sustain us, entertain us, and maintain our way of life.
At Freshwater, our goal is to empower people to protect and improve our water. So how can we educate and engage more people, helping them understand that everyone plays a role in a clean water future? How can we share our passion for fresh water in a way that captures the attention of more Minnesotans to protect this vital resource? That was the inspiration for Art for Water.
Art for Water is part of the Minnesota Water Stewards program. Artists explore water science and community engagement, sparking new ideas and ways to create interactive public art. Art that educates and inspires to ensure healthy, plentiful fresh water for years to come.
When you think about it, we all live on waterfront property. Water flowing off our lawns and down the street to storm drains travels through a system of pipes and tunnels, unfiltered, directly into lakes and streams. Some leaves and debris naturally enter lakes and streams, providing food for algae and other life. But when lots of food flows off of our streets, it can be too much of a good thing, making lakes sick. One simple action we can take for healthy water is to remove leaves, grass clippings, and other debris from street curbs and storm drains. Here's Art for Water artist Gino Oko to show us how he can help us remember this.
Hi, my name is Gino Oko. I'm a local artist. I specialize in murals, and I found out about the Art for Water program through Freshwater. I came out here to create image on the drain to show, for people to be mindful of the trash that's laid on the ground and the leaves. So, as a community, we work together and we help clean up our streets. The experience was really fun because my hope is to get people to be more inspired to clean up the storm drain like closest towards their home. They don't have to even go, to the other side of the street, like anyone closest to you. And hopefully they would also want like a painting on their own storm drain, so it makes it more interesting to look at, and you always remember and you always want to pay attention to it and clean it up. It's a sense of accomplishment, and it's a sense of like doing my part for the community. So because like with me being an artist, I always try to find a way of like, okay, how can my art also benefit the community? So doing something like this with art and storm drain and bringing attention is a really good feeling, and I feel as though I'm doing my part to help my community and in society as well.
Another artist in our Art for Water program is Ian Nystrom. Ian's sculpture work takes us in another direction. Ian spent countless hours working with scrap materials from his day job to create this piece, soon to be installed along the Mississippi River. Here is Beth Carreño from Rice Creek Watershed District to tell us more about her experience as a sponsor of Artist Stewards.
We recruited 2 local artists to help us form new connections with the public around water. We know that a lot of different mediums work. You want to try to communicate in a lot of different ways with the public, and art is a very powerful tool that we have. A lot of people connect with water through their feelings, and that's also how they connect with art. And so we were really excited to be able to kind of approach that water education, water water relationship through the art context. One of our artists, we were really excited. Ian is a sculptor, and he went through the freshwater training for the Water Stewards program, and it really got him thinking.
One of my big takeaways that I wanted to share with people that'll see the sculpture is this different way of looking at the river and the watershed and the water sources, and thinking about it less as kind of this big monolithic river and more as all the individual points of runoff and different water sources that join together to make up the whole at the end. That was one of the really insightful things about the course, and one of the things that I wanted to highlight with the piece that I was putting together.
Next, let's meet Presley Martin. Presley is an avid paddler, exploring along riverbanks and under freeways, in places where waste accumulates.
He creates sculptures from trash he collects along the way. Most recently, he produced a field guide to plastics found in the Mississippi, helping us all see just how much pollution flows into the river.
When I first started coming down to the creek, thinking about it as my neighborhood, I started seeing how it was the center of the neighborhood and how people used it every day as a place, as nature, probably just being close to water and, just, I guess, being by water and the way it sort of heals and connects you to nature.
That was Ryan Siebold. He recognizes that the creek in his neighborhood is the center of his community.
That's why he created a community-led education series called Water Table, where kids, and kids at heart, can explore and learn about the communities that thrive in a healthy creek ecosystem.
Our next Art for Water artist is Erica Finney. Erica chased her curiosity to the shores of Bassett Creek, creating a coloring book field guide that explores the communities and history of the creek. There is just so much creativity in our Art for Water program. This is Madeline Helling. She creates puppets larger than life, as well as small finger puppets. Her Art for Water project features critters she and her son observed living in, on, or near the water. She is developing puppet shows to help people meet and learn to care for these communities. In her Art for Water project, Sarah Udvig thought big. Her labor-intensive project, Ripple Effect, involved moving and arranging tons of multicolored rocks over 100 yards of beach to create a drop of water best viewed from high above.
Then there's Ben Weaver. Ben is a poet, songwriter, and philosopher who bikes along the Mississippi River, offering mini concerts of his original songs to connect people with water.
I happen to be an artist, but that's a pretty broad term, and I'm thankful for the chance to use the gifts that I was given to help other people connect with the water. And it just made me think about how I think a lot of us have, myself included, like pretty theoretical relationships with water and with the earth right now, and we're waking up, and that's important. But for water to be the way that it is, where it can change shape and form and pace, and it's so disruptible, and it never loses its essence. It never changes who it is, but it changes its form or its noise or its tune.
With the help of talented artists like Ben and the many others you've seen today, we are waking up to our relationship with water and with the earth, and that's important.
Art for Water is touching lives, connecting and engaging people to learn from each other.
Hi, my name is Shania Matson. I'm an artist, a writer, and a cultural and community organizer. It's great that artists get a chance to learn more about science, policy, and land use, because that only makes us more connected and more informed about the work that we're doing with water. But it's also a really great opportunity for community organizations to learn from artists how to engage one another, how to deepen those relationships, and how to make science and policy more real and more impactful in our communities.
Art is a language that speaks to people in a way that science and data never could. So using art to bring attention to our water resources is just a wonderful way to connect with so many different communities and residents around the watershed. Through the Art and Water program, our streams and lakes in our watershed are going to be the subject of a coloring book. And we think that's just such a fun and unique way to connect and engage with both children and adults in our watershed. And we're just so grateful to be part of that program.
The itsy bitsy spider went up the water spout. Isn't that one of the first things that we learned about water and how water flowed? Through a song. Art is definitely an important means to communicating about how important water is. We all know if we don't care about something, we're not going to take care of it. And we all need water to survive.
I think we can all agree that there's nothing more essential to life than fresh water. And we appreciate the necessity and the power of art in our lives.
Bringing these two forces together is what Art for Water is all about. We can't wait to see what other great work our artists can accomplish. For the sake of fresh water and for the health and safety of us all.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this glimpse into the Art for Water program. Next today, we'll hear from Beth Carreño, Communication and Outreach Coordinator for Rice Creek Watershed District. You probably caught Beth's enthusiasm for the impact of this program in her video segment. Rice Creek sponsored 2 artists this year, and we asked Beth to say a bit more about her experience as a sponsoring partner today. So Beth, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you. As Chris said, my name is Beth Carreño. I am the Communications and Outreach Coordinator for the Rice Creek Watershed District. I was very excited when I learned that Freshwater was going to pilot the Art for Water program with Hennepin County. This was something that I had a strong personal interest in. In other aspects of my career and personal life, I've worked with a lot of art centers, and so this was something that really intrigued me as a possibility. It also came at a time when I was already having conversations with a number of our partners about ways to expand our outreach and communication around water. One of those partners was Rachel Workin with the City of Fridley, and she and I kept coming back to this idea of how could we use art and some of the community relationships that we had to expand those conversations, expand that outreach around water. We believed that art had the power to connect with people and open doors, especially opening doors to learning that some of the tools and resources that we use and that we had available to us in the more traditional sense weren't able to do. And this is something that as communicators and educators we're very familiar with. We really felt that it was that it kept coming back to the audience and what were the needs of the different audiences that we might be working with. In these conversations about art and water, we were seeing these kind of main thoughts kind of trickling up. Like one, we knew that art can evoke feelings and build connections. But how do we ensure that as we inspire people through art and we inspire them and encourage them to take action, are we making sure that we're also getting the right information into their hands? And so we were talking about this balance, this concept of good information versus good intention. And then we really started looking at strategies, everything from the sourcing of our information to companion pieces that we might be able to use, including signage that could go out with some of the permanent pieces. And we were starting to think about partners. And that's where we hit the jackpot with Freshwater and the program that they were piloting and initiating with Hennepin County. I'm very grateful to Chris and to Alex and everyone at Freshwater for letting Rice Creek jump in with both feet to this pilot. I was also grateful to Hennepin County that they allowed us to participate with them. We were able to pull things together very quickly. For me and for Rice Creek, the reason that I think we were able to move quickly and have the success that we did was because we were implementing this project in a partnership. We collaborated with the City of Fridley, as well as the Banfield Lock Art Center, which is a community art center in the City of Fridley. I'll share a little bit more about that collaboration in a minute, but essentially we knew that we could move forward because of this partnership. And we also had the funds to support 2 artist water stewards. I think that's why it was so important to me to be a part of the pilot program, because since we only had the funding for 2 artist water stewards, going through with the Hennepin County cohort really allowed them to be a part of a larger community of other water stewards. And then having the Art Center as a partner also gave our artist water stewards a sense of community and support. So there were 2 things that were really key as we were setting this up, going through with the other artists, having that Art Center partnership. Those were really keys to our success. Participating in the Water Steward program and the trainings is always something that I enjoy doing. I love hearing people's stories about their connection with water and what called them to participate. So participating in the Art for Water training was equally exciting for me, to learn a little bit more about why each artist was called to participate into this program and why they were interested in water outreach. I also had the opportunity to lead an activity on how water inspires art. We all know that water is a common theme in art, and there are endless examples of water in songs and poems and sculptures and books, you name it. All of these things showcase water playing a very important role in art. And sometimes it's the most important role. Sometimes it's the key feature of the art. We also were very conscious of examining art in different cultures and trying to incorporate that into the activity. We looked at examples of art from different cultures and took an opportunity to see the role that art was playing, the role that water was playing in that art as an inspiration as well. We set up prompts for this activity, which was essentially kind of the same prompts as why we were piloting this Art for Water cohort of water stewards. What do you think the creator of the art was trying to convey? What does it make you feel? And does it increase your understanding and connection to water? So that was a really inspiring activity to go through with the artists and have some really great conversations and kind of set the stage for them to use their own art to inspire and connect around water. Real quick before I wrap up, a little bit more about the partnership that we utilized and had with the city and the Art Center. That really allowed us to give the program more structure, which is what we needed. From both a time perspective and a management perspective, it was really beneficial to us. The director of the Art Center managed the call for the artists, or put out the what we would call an RFP, I guess, but this is a little different. And so as a team, then we were able to collaboratively review the applications. After this process, we selected 2 amazing artists, Ian and Sarah, whose work you saw in the video. And Sarah is also doing a mural around water at the Banfield Lock Art Center in Fridley. So while the stipends for the artists went through Freshwater and our payments to Freshwater, we chose to run the reimbursement for materials and supplies through the Art Center. we also had some additional limitations and structure that we kind of incorporated into the program and put on the artists, what they would focus on, things like that, because of the partnership we had with the Art Center. The pieces ultimately that they were developing initially would be on display at the Art Center. Ian's sculpture will be a permanent exhibit in the park adjacent to the Art Center. Sarah's mural is within the Art Center itself. So we also incorporated some additional water education into the programming at the Art Center. We wanted to look at how family days, other public events could showcase water outreach and education using art as a vehicle. Unfortunately, COVID had other plans in some ways, but we are ready to move forward with a lot of these activities next year and hopefully beyond. And we were able to pivot many of our ideas into online activities as well. We learned a lot about how to implement a project like this, everything from insurance of public placed arts to all of the processes of actually placing art in a public space. There are a lot of different partners who get to say where you put or what you do with a sculptural piece, and it's not as simple as just saying, oh, this person created a sculpture for the Art for Water's Water Steward program, and now we're just going to put it here. We have to kind of jump through a lot of hoops, and so we've, like I said, we've learned a lot. But in the long run and in the end, it's having such a positive impact, and it's the partnership that makes us successful and keeps it moving forward. I know that my personal experiences with Ian and Sarah have been wonderful, and also impacted the future of the program. They were very clear they don't want watered down science. They are creating art that is so impactful, and they're interested in collaborating with other water stewards, and our other water stewards are very interested in collaborating with them, as well as our community stakeholders. A lot of our city partners are really coming to me and saying, how do we integrate this kind of water education and water outreach into our programs? So for us, it's not two separate groups of water stewards anymore. It's one group of water stewards, but we just have a few that are very passionate about art. And that's giving all of our other water stewards more opportunities as well. You know, just a final comment. You know, we've been pursuing future water stewards in the traditional sense, and now we've got this artist cohort. And so we've been able to have some great conversations with Gino, who you saw in the video as well, and are being able to bring this as a potential tool for some of our communities who are really interested in incorporating storm drain art, water outreach, murals into their public spaces and outreach as well. So I think that that is all I have to share. Hopefully I delivered on my promise of what I would include in my presentation, and I'll be happy to answer questions when we get to that point. So thank you.
Thank you, Beth. Thanks so much. You really did highlight how art can create space for ongoing dialogue with the public, and that this space can hold a wide variety of perspectives. Appreciate that. That's really powerful. In our time together today, we've shared one way that we've tapped into this power in our work at Freshwater and our work with our partners in the watershed districts. There are probably some questions, some ideas, some comments that this whole thing has sparked for you. So I guess I'd like to open this up for questions for us or for Beth at this time. Any questions? I don't know, did I check?
No, that's all right. If you have a question, why don't you go ahead and either unmute yourself and ask, or go ahead and pop it in the chat and we'll watch the chat. So we'll watch for both things. Go ahead and.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Andy. I work at the Middle Fork Crover Watershed District, and I like the idea of painting storm drains for Adopt a Drain. I think it's great to kind of get the community involved. I had been kind of talking with a couple of cities around the area to see if about this program and about the idea of letting people legally paint the storm drains. I'm wondering if there's any idea you can share of if you've come into problems with that of city officials or about maintaining the painting of the storm drains themselves over the years.
Okay. Well, my experience with that, Beth, you can probably speak to this too from your experience with municipalities. In the city of Minneapolis, you're required to apply for a permit to do anything to the storm drains. And there's an adopt a drain program going on in Minneapolis. And so it kind of goes through those channels and up to get the permitting. The storm drain murals are not permanent art. They last for a while. Gino, I know, uses some of the same paint that is used to paint the lines down in the highway, the divider lines and those kind of things. Then he adds some other acrylic colors. So they last a while, but they aren't going to be permanent. And we haven't done anything to make that permanent. Beth, do you want to add?
Yeah, I would love to speak to that a little bit, because we're actually having quite a few conversations with Gino right now at the request of many of our city partners. And I think that's the key for us is it's going through the cities. And so the permitting and the permission piece of it, it's kind of that partners due diligence to make sure that this is an acceptable thing with their public works or their roads department. We are also looking at or having those conversations with Gino about the permanence of it. When we do storm drain stenciling and other activities, we always work with our cities as well and ask if they have any limitations or restrictions around the paints that we use. And so we're kind of doing that with Gino as well. Excuse me, with Gino as well. One of the things he's doing is that this is still kind of a fairly new process for him. And so he's kind of observing and evaluating how long the paint does last in different kinds of areas and intersections. So right now, a lot of our conversations with our communities are about using this kind of art installation in a high visibility area, but not necessarily a high vehicle traffic area, like the parking lot of their city buildings or city offices. So it's slower traffic, but that they do see a lot of people coming through. But we're going to keep watching it.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. I can also tell you, I mean, we've been talking to Gino and are looking at what the costs of something like that is going to be as well. And it's always going to depend on, you kind of pay extra for mileage, you pay for the supplies, and, are you going to use volunteers with them? Is it a community engagement? So there's all sorts of different pieces, but we're finding it's probably going to be about maybe $800 or so for each art installation, maybe a little more, maybe a little less, but we aren't trying to shortchange our artists here.
So Beth, clarify, that's not just materials, that's what you pay the artist for.
That's what we pay the artist, and then materials and mileage and any stipend to other groups is in addition to that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And that's not just like Rice Creek isn't just saying, hey, we're going to pay you to do all of these. It's when a city comes to us and wants to do it as part of the engagement of their Adopt a Drain program or their water stewards. Mm-hmm. And so that's where those dollars come from. It's not a general budget item.
Right. Jen, is there a question?
Well, actually, I have one. Chris, I'm wondering, we have a lot of watershed partners throughout the metro, and I was just wondering how many watersheds, if you know off the top of your head, have participated to put stewards through the watershed steward program. Just how widely across the metro is the program, both for the traditional watershed stewards, and then also this the art version of it, just out of curiosity, how widespread is that? And then my second question is just out of curiosity, how much is a sponsorship for an individual to get into the program?
Okay, Alex, I'm gonna let you get started on this and I'll back you up.
Sure. So over the years, so the Minnesota Water Steward Program started in 2013, and that was just with the Minnehaha Creek Watershed District, so in the West Metro. And then since then, every year we've worked to expand, and we now work with about 23, I believe, partner organizations. And so that's watershed districts, cities, counties, and even another nonprofit here and there. Not all 23 participate every year, but that's how far we've gotten. And our network of stewards now is just over 400 steward volunteers themselves, and that's across the whole metro. And a little bit we're dabbling, reaching into greater Minnesota to varying degrees of success, but we would love to get into other communities throughout the state as well. And then for the cost, for this year, for putting artists through the program, it's they're sponsored by a partner organization, and so if you wanted to sponsor a steward or partner with them, the training itself for the regular program is $1,500, and then for the artists on top of that, we ask them. The host site provides a $1,300 stipend to cover their time and their supplies and everything like that. Chris,
and that's a pass-through stipend. That's paid to us, and we give it directly to the artists to help cover some of their materials and just acknowledge the skill and creativity and talents that they're bringing to the program.
Rice Creek did it a little bit differently in that we paid Freshwater the fee for the artists, and the stipend came through Freshwater to the artists, but it was the supplies and materials were through the partnership with the Art Center.
Yes, so you're welcome to pay more to the artists. we won't charge more on our end, but anything that any support for the artists, we're all behind.
Right, and as you heard from Beth's experience, it really is kind of adaptable and customizable as to how this all works. We're happy to work with people to get the program working for you.
Right. We've run our program, the pilot, through Hennepin County and Rice Creek. They were the two groups. So we are busy and willing to adapt to the needs of partners as partners come forward.
Thanks, guys. It's a great program you guys have operating. I just want to direct your attention to the chat. There's a question from Kimberly Morris, and the question is, what other ways were communities engaged in the process to work with artists, and what materials were used to paint the storm drains?
I think Gino, when he was painting the storm drains, Chris, Gino told me that the paint is the same paint that the Department of Transportation folks use.
Yeah. His yellows and his whites are those the same paints, and then I think he fills in with like the other colors are acrylics, I believe. But I'm not 100% sure on that. I guess for the materials, as far as communities being involved, it really varies depending on what the artist is doing. If you recall from the video, we have anything from the coloring book, which would be a downloadable self-guided tour of areas along Bassett Creek with the coloring component to it, to other like the puppet shows, which have not happened yet due to COVID, but the water table community education. You saw that was a socially distant activity that's been happening regularly along the banks of Minnehaha Creek. So I don't know, did we answer that question enough?
And I would just add to that. So yeah, we did have some of those community engagement things like the water table, and some things due to COVID are just postponed until we're able to do them again. Like I think, Beth, I think you mentioned the art festival that your artists would be a part of, and
yeah, we're planning on providing a venue for them at Banfield. So not only participating in the art fair that Banfield Lock hosts every year, but also looking at doing a showcase for them. And then also the family days where they're going to be integrating it. And then we've kind of put it out there. We've got some partnerships with libraries and other organizations where we're able to sometimes make those connections. And then kind of the last piece of it is our other water stewards are engaging with the artist cohorts. And they've got relationships and engagement in the community. So we're looking at it from all angles.
Yeah, it's exciting what we can do. I see there's another hand up here.
Yep, excellent. Yeah, go ahead, Ali.
Hi, and thanks for the presenters. This is Ali Al-Hassan, Manager of Water Supply Planning with the Met Council. We have been partners with Freshwater on the water steward on the side of water efficiency and water conservation.
Yes.
For the last 2 or 3 years, I don't remember. But one of the things of interest for us also is knowing and I know that this is just a pilot project at this time with the water quality stewards. Has there any been thinking of including some art for water conservation, water efficiency as part of the educational programs in the future?
Yes, that would be really nice. There are water efficiency components, as you know, because you sponsored the development of it, woven into our steward training. And Alex and I actually are spending some time and energy just after the new year in weaving more of that more solidly into our training so that every artist and steward and general steward candidate going through the steward training will have solid efficiency components, and projects related to that will also be possible for artists. Is there more that I can say? Yeah.
I would add to that just shortly, Chris, that at least my experience with our water stewards is that water conservation is always front of mind for them. You know, I think that a lot of our stewards that are coming at it from a general interest perspective, as opposed to somebody maybe with a specific water background. So a lot of our water stewards are coming at it, and water quality and conservation are just really, really closely intertwined with them. And so it's always, it's very much front of mind in their projects and conversations.
Yeah, but I a point taken too. I think it will be fun to call that out a little more too, and see if there's some directions we can go more strongly for highlighting water efficiency as we go forward. Are there more questions? I think we're getting really close to time here.
Yeah, I'd be happy to take one more question. I don't see any hands though, so I'll just pause for a moment if there's a last question. Great. Well, thanks so much for participating. And Chris and Alex and Beth, thanks so much for joining us. This was a really cool topic and a really nice seminar. We can't, if we were all in a room together, of course we'd clap for you. So we are all clapping for you from our own work locations. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
We hope you had fun and feel creative.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.